Hey, welcome into the Thursday edition. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Hope everybody's off to a wonderful start on this Thursday morning. Joe Rexrode, how we doing? What's going on?
Doing okay. I will give a nice traffic update for the people out there. I can tell you that coming from the southeast of Nashville, very patchy fog, very thick in some spots. So be careful out there and make sure that you're, shopping, getting a month's supply of stuff for Death Storm 26.
Yes.
Because, you will be indoors for 2-3 days, but make sure that you have enough food to last through nuclear winter.
Well, some people apparently are taking that advice.
Yeah.
I showed you some photos of the Hendersonville Walmart last night.
That's crazy.
Grocery store, just nothing left. It's all gone. I'm sure that they probably, I guess.
I mean, I
restocked,
hope,
but
I guess, but they
I saw
probably
the
have a
photos. I was
schedule,
like,
right?
oh, wow, so there's no food in here at all. It's kind of amazing.
Man, granola bar, nothing?
Not a thing.
Snickers?
People should be well fed up there in Hendersonville.
Yeah.
A lot of food
Well,
left.
as soon as the weather's good enough to go outside, you have to roll yourself outside.
Ian, how we doing? What's going on?
Yeah, good morning. Wondering about that. People buying like it's the apocalypse. We should be good after a couple of days. So
I hope so, right?
I hope so. It's supposed to be. Yeah, we are kind of looking at the forecast this morning, trying to decide ice, snow, sleet, all of it.
Yeah.
So head on a swivel.
Like, I'll take 2 feet of snow, about 2 feet, maybe not, but like just the ice thing is
Not good.
yeah, that's what you don't want, man. And what I think we're going to get.
It could
We
be.
being south of the city, you being north of the city, might be just a nice fluffy snow.
Well, we'll see. I don't know.
I don't know.
That's the thing
The
around
models
here,
keep
man.
changing.
Models keep changing. And around here, you never know. Like I've been a part of some storms, not like this, but like, you're a kid in school, you're waiting to, oh man, there's a clear line of snow coming. I mean, it's clear as day. The line of snow is coming. And then the Nashville Snow Dome kicks in and it just turns into rain or just blows away, just goes. But I don't think that's going to happen here. I think we're going to be in some little bit of trouble this weekend.
So people have referenced the 93, the storm of 93.
Yes.
So apparently that
was a bad ice storm.
And you were what?
I was 1 year old.
Child, a baby. Yeah.
At the time it happened, I was probably like 6 months old.
No, I
Yeah,
moved here summer of '97.
Yeah. We still talk about the storm of 78 up in Michigan.
The bad one?
I lived in Battle Creek. It absolutely, like, we have pictures of like the neighborhood where all you could see was the antennas and chimneys. Like it was,
Jeez.
yeah, it just like several feet of snow. 78. So yeah,
I've seen some TikToks of a snowstorm going on in Russia right now, apparently, where people like you open your door and you got to dig your way out.
Yeah.
You just got, it's like you got to tunnel your way through.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah. Let's
not have that here.
No, that would definitely. I mean, it really doesn't, like, that doesn't play anywhere. Like you're just screwed no matter what.
No, yeah, that's not good.
Here, I'm trying to. That would not be good, man. So now you get a nice little fog to get people ready for it all today. So be careful.
That'll be nice. That'll be nice. We got a lot going on the program today. Andrew Brunette, Predators head coach, will be with us coming up at 7:30. It is game number 1,000 for Roman Josi tonight as the Predators take on the Ottawa Senators, and he is already the all-time leader in games played for the Predators, and he will become the first Predator ever to play game number 1 and game number 1,000 in the same uniform. And that will be a cool moment tonight. So Roman Josi skating in game number 1,000. We'll get into that with Andrew Brunette a little bit later in the show. Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports for his weekly visit coming up at 8 o'clock. We will get into the Titans hiring of Robert Saleh with him and maybe his thoughts on some staff additions that could be taking place. We'll get into that. Best and worst things in sports later this hour. That's 6:45. Joe, as we were ending the show yesterday, Diana Rossini put it out there that while Brian Daboll, still very much a candidate for the Buffalo Bills head coaching job, and obviously if that were the case and he were offered that job, he would take that job, I would assume. If it doesn't work out with Buffalo and Brian Daboll doesn't become a head coach, that he is expected to be the offensive coordinator here. So that happened at the very end of our show yesterday. So we didn't really have a whole lot of time to dig into that. So let's just start there, Joe. Let's play that out. Let's say Daboll gets through the interview process and Buffalo decides to go a different direction and they hire somebody else to be their head coach. And there's just not a head coaching job this cycle for Brian Daboll. And he's named Titans offensive coordinator. What do you make of that? How do you feel about a Brian Daboll pairing with Robert Saleh here if you're a Titans fan?
I don't know. I'm sort of torn on it. I guess there's just like most of these possibilities, head coach, OC, there aren't that many where you're like, you know, I think McDaniel, I would have said, no, that's a sweet hire. You know, Daboll, a couple things. One is like he was somewhat erratic as a head coach. It's a big personality. That shouldn't be some huge issue, but you still have to like figure out. And he's not from the solid. Not the again. It's like I'm advocating for Saleh. Like hire one of your buddies. You need to hire one of your buddies. You know, and people of course get so mad about that idea. But again, there is something to like a background, a history, a trust level, and a knowledge of like how someone operates and all that stuff. So there's that. Also, like if I'm Saleh, I guess. I mean, you're just starting out this job, but I do feel like sometimes when like a coordinator who's had some success as a head coach comes in and is sort of arranged in a marriage, like, you can get your mind can go to, this guy could like take my job someday. I mean, again, like, at the start of a tenure, that's not something you typically think about. Usually it's like a couple years into a struggling tenure, you bring someone in and it's like, oh, so this guy is good. Will at least be the interim coach if this coach gets fired. But like the Daboll, I mean, the Bills, and I caught like some of the stuff from their whack ass presser yesterday with, hey, but their owner at least talked. That must be something special. Their owner's like yelling out, he lost because of a bad call. Like, all right, calm down, Terry Pagula. But also was like, we didn't want to draft Keon Coleman. Sean McDermott did.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thanks. You were still paying him, by the way.
Keon Coleman just sitting there watching the TV like, all righty, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, I mean, granted, it hasn't been good with him apparently up there, but like that whole thing. So they might hire Daboll, which I think would be a mistake. It's you get into the whole Josh Allen thing, and then you get into the whole discussion of like quote unquote developing a quarterback. Obviously, Brian Daboll got the New York Giants head coaching job because of Josh Allen's tremendous, unbelievable, possibly unprecedented progress from the start of his career with the Bills to 3 years in.
Yeah.
But I mean, then I get into like, so I mean, like mechanically, he seemed to completely change. Is that Daboll? I mean, everybody, there's a million people who, there's a bunch of cooks in the kitchen, including your own quarterback coach. I've read a story about the science behind changing his delivery and everything. I don't think that was Daboll. I mean, I was like, he can, hey, look, he can throw a football straight now. Holy cow, Brian, aren't you excited? Call a cool play for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not trying to take credit away from him. I think he's obviously proven as an OC, but I think there's questions.
Yeah. I mean, he was an OC, obviously the 4 years in Buffalo. He was an OC in Cleveland all the way back in 2009. He was an OC with Miami, and he's been an OC in Kansas City. So you're talking about several different spots in the NFL where he has been an offensive coordinator. Now, his tenure in New York as a head coach. I mean, the first year he got there, that was when Daniel Jones had a really good year. They made the playoffs, and it was like, hey, look, Brian Daboll's come in, and he's worked with Josh Allen, and now he's worked with Daniel Jones, and apparently he's just a quarterback whisperer and a really good coach. And then that was about all she wrote for Brian Daboll in New York after that. Didn't work out with Daniel Jones after that. They eventually tried to trade up and draft Cam Ward. Didn't work. They drafted Jackson Dart. And when he wasn't pulling Jackson Dart out of the injury tent this year, he was fighting off Russell Wilson and making sure that Russell Wilson never stepped foot on the field again. It's an interesting, like you said, like it's an interesting personality that they would be bringing in at that point. I mean, how good is he at the job? How good is he at being an offensive coordinator? I certainly think they could do worse than Brian Daboll as their offensive coordinator paired with Robert Saleh as head coach here. I think you bring up a big question here, which is exactly how much credit does he deserve for Josh Allen? Because, I mean, some of the answer to that, Joe, will probably determine whether or not he gets the Bills job, right? Like, I guess that's the reason that he's in contention for the Bills job. I don't see him really in contention for any of these other jobs. So that part of it's going to be really interesting here. And if it doesn't work out in Buffalo, and I'm with you, like, look, even if he did work with Josh Allen and you feel good about that, like, don't you need to try something different in Buffalo, right? Like, I understand he wasn't the head coach at the time, but he was the offensive coordinator.
Yeah, hey, they do whatever you want, Buffalo, but it's like as rough as that last outing was for Josh Allen. Is that something, like he's still like the best part of your team, right? So like you need to figure other stuff out. I mean, I don't know. There were some things about his tenure with the Giants that I think definitely were a little bit alarming, And again, it's like it's funny because with him and with Saleh, both of them, with those New York teams playing in New Jersey, they had some moments where you're like, what's up with this dude? More outward and out there for everybody to see for Daboll, but like they both sort of had that, and now they both might be here.
I mean, how many other New York coaches could they add to this staff? I mean, go get Eric Mangini, get Tom Coughlin, bring him out of retirement, come back in here.
There you go.
Some
Parcells.
sort of role. Parcells. Why not?
Bring in Parcells as an advisor.
Yeah.
God, I forgot about Eric Mangini. That's an all-time great right there.
Yeah. Rex Ryan, he lives here. Put him on the staff, man.
Yeah, Rex Ryan, if you're down, I know down in Nolensville, be careful of that fog.
Be careful of that fog out there.
Yeah.
Make sure your shoes are on while driving.
Foot on the pedal.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. What do you make of the idea of Brian Daboll potentially as offensive coordinator for the Tennessee Titans under Robert Saleh's new staff? We'll take your thoughts on that. This is Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game.
I think you look at guys like Arthur Smith is one that definitely comes to mind because he's someone that Saleh reached out to before when he was with the Jets to have him come as a senior assistant as well as not an OC, but like just a part of that staff that way. You have that. You have, Matt Nagy's still out there. Brian Daboll is an option, although he's getting some head coach interviews. So those are guys. And then he could always tap into that Kyle Shanahan database, right? And that's the one other thing that appealed to the Titans was his deep Rolodex of contacts. So one way or another, he's going to find somebody, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this whole thing works out because you have to make sure that you get somebody that's going to want to run the football, right? Because that's the secret to how Cam got better.
That's TD on ESPN Radio, breaking it all down. Taking your thoughts on Brian Daboll, 615-737-1025. Could he be the next offensive coordinator for the Tennessee Titans? Is he going to be the head coach of the Buffalo Bills? And if so, what does that mean for Robert Saleh and the options at offensive coordinator after that? We'll take your thoughts on all that. Let's head to our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Jaden to the program. Jaden, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Morning, guys. Hope you're doing well. Obviously, many fans, including myself, wanted McDaniel, Mike, not Josh, for my mistake the other day.
Nice.
But I think the idea of getting Daboll would be a great addition for the offense. Now, additionally, a question I have for you guys. Why haven't the Titans not officially announced Saleh yet? I mean, I've seen the contract details on Twitter, but is there more stuff that they still have to figure out before an official announcement? I'll leave it at that, and I appreciate you guys. Have a good one.
Thank you, Jaden. Appreciate it. That's a good question. I don't know exactly why they haven't announced it yet. I mean, maybe they're waiting to line the whole building, right? Get the video of him coming in.
Oh, sure. It is very important. Yeah, sometimes there's like last second negotiation. It doesn't seem like that's the case. I think it might just be HR stuff. This happens actually a decent amount where it's like you have to still go through all the crossing of T's, dotting of I's before you can officially announce something. So I don't think that there's any sort of
hang up
with the deal or anything like that. So I'm sure it'll happen real soon. And then the presser will happen after Death Storm 26 sometime.
So we'll say, Robert, welcome to Nashville. It's good to have you here as head coach. We'll see you at the presser in 6 weeks.
Yeah, stay away from Nashville for the time. Although I guess really basically stay away from like 80% of the country.
Yeah, it's going to be a bad one.
Storm is going to wreak havoc all over the place. But yeah, I don't think there's any sort of issue there or anything like that.
Ed on the text line says, help me understand why this is just the opposite setup of Callie and Wilson. The head coach runs the defense, and then another CEO type runs the offense. Hoping we have a true head coach this time around.
Well, that's the thing, too. It's like, I guess, is Daboll, like if Daboll is actually, again, Diana reported yesterday, like expected to become the OC if he doesn't get the Bills job. And first of all, that means, I think, dissing the Eagles, which is interesting, So you can look at that as, so he must love Cam Ward. But we already know that he liked Cam Ward during the draft, so that's a good endorsement of him. But also, so he's just Saleh's first choice. I'm just surprised. Again, we don't know what with McDaniel. Like McDaniel would have made sense. They're close. He took the Harbaugh job, so. I guess I'm a little bit surprised that the next person you'd go to if you're Robert Saleh is Brian Daboll, just because he's not part of his group. And there's a lot of good candidates and a lot of good OCs come out of that group. It's a little bit surprising. I mean, it would be, to me, surprising / like not great if, this is like the Titans pairing them together. I don't like that idea.
No, I don't like that.
Saleh should go hire who he wants to be as his coach. I mean, the reporting on this from Albert Breer was that he laid out for them. And maybe it was like, guys, I think Daboll is perfect. Yeah. He loves Cam Ward. I think and if that's the case, okay,
sure.
But it's a little surprising and strange, I think, if that is the case.
Well, it's not, I don't think it would be who we would normally connect the dots to, just because there are so many other candidates that he's, directly been involved with recently, right? So that part of it is interesting. I mean, look, we just all naturally made the McDaniel Saleh connection. I understand why. They've worked together and by all accounts seem to like each other. But I have no idea. Like Saleh may have came in there and McDaniel was never even part of the discussion. I have no idea how that all worked out. I
Yeah.
assumed that he was on the list somewhere, but maybe he wasn't number one.
Yeah, I mean, it's also, though, just Salah's, yes, he's a defensive guy, but he is connected to and has been part of successful football with the new fangled West Coast offense.
Yep.
Right? So it's hard for me to believe that he doesn't believe in the West Coast offense. Like LD saying it'd be better because it'd be better for the Titans. With Sue Cam Ward, his style is better than the West Coast, throw the ball all over the place. And like I said to him, look at the way the Niners have played over the years. Look at the way the Rams even play some West Coast. West Coast teams run the ball too, man. They run the ball too. I mean, the
49ers have run the ball very well over the years, and that's both with
right.
McCaffrey and Mostert, and it hasn't really mattered who they've had in there. They've run the ball very well.
I mean, Matt LaFleur's version of that offense here finally really got good when they just started giving the ball wide zone. Derrick Henry, let's go, right? Yeah. And so Daboll is from the Earhart-Perkins family, which is like going back to like the New England offense of a long time ago, and it's kind of built up. But again, there's versions of that throw it all over the place, so I don't know that it really but it's just that philosophically, I would assume Saleh would favor the West Coast.
Yeah, I mean, I would think so, but I don't know. I mean, I'm going to assume if this happens, right? Like if Daboll doesn't become the head coach of the Bills and he's the offensive coordinator for the Titans, I'm going to assume that that's Saleh's choice, right? Like, to your point, it would be very weird if it this early in the process, the Titans were like, hey, Robert, we like you. Obviously enough to hire you as head coach. You blew us all away with the interview. We know that you came in here and laid out this nice plan of offensive coordinator, but don't worry, we'll take it from here. We got the offensive coordinator for you.
And by the way, here you go. Here's the most important hire of your staff. We're making it for you. Congrats.
I just don't think that's probably the way that this is shaking out.
It would be awful if that is. So, if it's someone texting me, is it possible Daboll reach out to Saleh? Sure. I mean, and again, just because I'm going through all of Daboll's, I'm like, did they cross paths at any point? They both were at Michigan State as grads. But Daboll was there a few years earlier. Daboll got to be a grad under Saban and Saleh under John L. Smith. God damn, couch a mistake. I miss John L. I miss him.
Maybe that'd be the first thing you can ask Saleh about.
I'm trying to think. Oh, God, that's a good question, actually. Was Saleh, you know the play I'm talking about?
I don't know the play you're talking about. I've seen that clip, yes.
So the clip is about they were at Ohio State. They were actually kicking Ohio State's butt on the road, and someone said, fast field goal, because the clock was low, and they were lined up. So they were up 17-7, about to try to go up 27, and they only had 10 guys come on the field. And so it was Ohio State just like, boom, and just ran it for a touchdown. So right at the half ended, and John was like, that's a goddamn couch mistake. He's screaming at everybody. All right, let me see. Was Saleh there for that? I was there that day. What a day that was. They ended up getting their butts kicked, by the way, and losing that game. You might be surprised. See, he was there in 02 and 03. This happened, I think, in 04 or 05.
Okay.
So you missed that one. But yeah, I don't see any paths crossing of these two. But again, it doesn't mean people don't get to know each other. Whatever. I mean, the people. It is a pretty small fraternity. But yeah, it's like I get it. It's like, hey, this guy. I guess if you're Saleh, it's like this is a head coach.
Yeah,
this guy, we were in New York together, and this would be a big score for us. I just would assume that he'd be looking at his family of his coaching tree first, the branches that he's part of.
Let's head back to our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Jared in Spring Hill to the program. Jared, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Good morning, fellas. Hope everybody's safe on the roads, a little slick. And this weekend, people, I don't know if we're going to get a lot of snow or none, but just be careful. And, I haven't called in to address, but I just don't really think that this Saleh hire is the best interest of Cam Ward. Like, there's no way that he wowed people with, I'm going to come in here and bring in a bunch of people, but I can't do it. I'm going to have to rely on somebody else to develop the biggest investment in the franchise right now. And then we're just going to be talking, and I would be fine with Daboll because it sounds like he runs the ball and And if we can run the ball and play defense, and maybe Cam Ward can develop and take us to, some places we've been before. But at the same time, it just doesn't necessarily seem like we're setting ourselves up for the best long-term, success or stability, because you're not doing much to help Cam Ward. Like, here we are talking about the biggest hires, developing Cam Ward, and we're a week into this guy's tenure, and we don't know who it is. They're not announcing the guy, like the caller said previously. So it's just kind of like, this is a big decision. Could you not have gone with another guy who maybe have had a better answer in the interview? Because I would just want to know, how could you develop? How can you develop Cam Ward? You personally, how can you develop Cam Ward and create an infrastructure for him to succeed? And I just don't think that the Titans went that route for some reason. And I'm interested to see how it goes out, I guess. But sure, bring in Brian Daboll, whatever. Anyways, tighten up.
Thank you, Jared. Appreciate it.
So basically, Jared's saying that they shouldn't have hired a defensive coach, right? I mean, the same questions were there for Vrabel. So, yeah. I mean, some people believe that, right? Yeah, like they should have gone with an OC QB coach. But, to me, you can have a good head coach and you have to hire good people who specifically develop them. That happens all over the league too.
Well, let's be clear, though. Like, we don't know what Robert Saleh's answer to the Titans was in terms of like how he was developing, what his plan is to develop Cam Ward. It may have been a great answer. I have no idea.
Yeah, it could have been a great answer. Yeah. But it wasn't, I will do it, because obviously, sure. You've got, the plan is, here's the people and here's what we're going to do to try to do it.
Yeah.
So
maybe Daboll is number one on that list, baby.
Maybe. I hope so. Like, I hope it's, it really isn't like,
Robert, I have a coach for you.
Now you listen to me here. This quarterback's going to be developed by our friend Brian. He's from Canada.
737-1025, our phone number. A lot more of your reaction to get to on the solid Daboll front. We will do that. The best and worst things in sports coming up at 6:45. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. 94.9 The Fan, your home for Vanderbilt women's basketball. Tonight, the Commodores taking on Auburn at Memorial Gym at 6:30. Pregame beginning at 6:15. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Joe, Diana Rossini just putting this out there that Brian Daboll meeting with Bills owner Terry Pegula, general manager Brandon Beane, and other key Bills decision makers today. Buffalo, obviously his top choice to be their head coach. And we'll see if Buffalo feels the same way after the in-person interview today. But he is meeting with the Bills, and we'll see if Terry Pegula has calmed down a little bit after yesterday.
I mean, if you're Daboll, I have no idea how things went after he left Sean McDermott's staff, but you a little also weirded out by how they threw him under the bus? I
guess not.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying you don't go interview for the job. If you have a chance to be a head coach in the NFL, probably should go talk to people about it. But yeah, I'd be a little bit, if I was him, a little wary of the whole situation.
It's very
kind of wacky, man.
Well, if you're out there and you didn't see any of that Bills press conference yesterday, it's pretty entertaining. It's kind of crazy. He was talking about we talked about the Keon Coleman stuff, and he basically just threw the coaching staff under the bus when it came to that. So McDermott's out the door, but Joe Brady was there. He's around, and apparently they're at least considering Joe Brady as well. It's like, okay, well, how much influence did he have? Right?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just the whole thing is weird.
Yeah. I'd like all the owners to talk. So I don't want to be too critical of Terry Pegula. He talked. So good job. All the owners should talk.
I think he owns the Sabres too.
He does.
Get all of them.
He does. And it's funny because he's been the narrative has sort of been like he doesn't operate the same way. And the Bills are, the Bills have been very good and whatever, and the Sabres obviously have been a bleep show, but I don't know, man. I guess it's still the same dude.
Yeah.
So maybe the Sabres type years are coming for the Bills, but
that would be unfortunate.
Yeah, that would be. Yeah. It's so very interesting. I don't know. I don't even know who else is on Buffalo's list. I'm sure that's out there. I haven't seen it. I assume they've got some of the normal people. It's getting picked over now. Tomlin not participating. Harbaugh's off the grid. Stefanski's out of there. Salah's out of there. This going to be?
Look, Daboll could absolutely get hired there. I would assume that Josh Allen got a pretty good relationship with Brian Daboll. Otherwise, why are you even going through this process if that's not the case? So, if now that you've fired McDermott, my guess is that Josh Allen probably pretty high on Brian Daboll. So if that's the case, are you making your entire decision based on Josh Allen being happy with Brian Daboll?
I'd be like, so Josh, this means you're not going to turn it over 4 times in a playoff game when if you just do 3 or you hit the wide open guy for a touchdown, we win? Yeah. Daboll will make the difference there? Okay. Well, then I guess we'll hire him. Yeah, it is awesome. Again, this whole thing with Keon Coleman, apparently I didn't see is there's all these clips of Brandon Beane talking about how great he is. The bottom line is Keon Coleman, after he got in the NFL, has not, he hasn't done what you need to do. And
it's not good.
Right, but it's also some of his, I think, is an off the field thing. So no one should have been able to predict that. I don't think that was a thing with him coming out of school. So, the fact that now you're trying to retroactively throw the coach under the bus for him is really weak, man. It's really weak.
One texter says, I like the head coaching hire, but Daboll as offensive coordinator is just stupid. Did all the TVs in Tennessee not work when the Giants played, or we ran into the concussion tent? I think the concussion tent's going to come up a lot. I think in the Brian Daboll discussion. Jackson, get out of the tent. I need you to play. If not, Russell Wilson has to play. We can't do that.
Yeah, they're going to have to, have sort of I don't know, maybe they have to put an electric fence around it so he can't come near Cam goes in there. If he's out there.
Brandon Allen cannot do it.
Oh, God. Or Will Levis.
Could be.
Brandon Allen's not going to be here next year, right?
Brian Daboll's not running in the 10 if Will Levis is the backup. He's like, yeah, we'll be fine.
That's true.
It's all right.
It's just a straight up 2 QB system.
Yeah.
How could you not be excited about that? Skylar, Keon Coleman had the worst day of vacation ever yesterday. LOL. Yeah, it's like I can't right to Cancun and
Yeah, I hope he wasn't live streaming the
Wow.
press conference. He's just
Yeah.
like, wow, I'm just getting smoked up here by the owner.
Like I really hope he wasn't live streaming it. But yeah, I'm sure the it got clipped up for him real fast.
I'm sure it did.
Yeah.
I'm sure it did. Well, and then the question is, we played out the scenario where Dayball is the OC. Well, what happens if Dayball gets hired by the Bills? Where do you go from there if you're the Titans? I mean, is Arthur Smith a legitimate, serious candidate? Does it go back to some of the names we've thrown out there that are, directly involved in the Shanahan, McVay, LaFleur, or whatever you want to call it, tree that's out there at that point? Like, I would be interested if it's not Dayball and he ends up being the head coach at Buffalo. Where do you pivot? Because I would assume that more than one name probably came up in this discussion with Robert Saleh and the Titans in terms of the offensive coordinator part of this.
Yeah. Do you go with the more established Smith, Kingsbury? Who else would be in that anymore? I mean, those are the two who really stand out as well. Slowick would be another one that you could throw into the possibility. I mean, again, Saleh has worked with him, I believe. I believe Saleh and Slowick worked together in San Francisco.
I believe that is correct.
Before Saleh took the Jets job.
Where is Slowick now? He was the passing game coordinator for the Dolphins. Okay.
So there you go. You can't get McDaniel, get his guy. Yeah, Slowick, he's still in his 30s. That's pretty wild. But he was with he was there for all those years. Saleh was there before Saleh went with the Jets. So that would be something. And yeah, to me, like I feel like at this point we can look at the Texans and probably say with some confidence, yeah, blaming that guy for everything was a little bit rash without knowing everything that went on behind the scenes. I think that's definitely a name to think about. And then the names you've mentioned, the guys who are non-play calling OCs with Shanahan, McVay. So there's 5.
Yeah, I mean, it's again like I would assume more than Brian Daboll just came up in the interview with the Titans and the Titans like, hey, yeah, Brian Daboll sounds great. Let's go. I mean, it sounds like from the piece that we discussed yesterday from Albert Breer that there was some pretty extensive talk on the offensive coordinator front, which makes sense. I mean, look,
and you don't know who it's going to be.
We don't know who it's going to be.
Like they don't at that time.
You never for certainty know that, he can have the plan to get Mike McDaniel in there, but you don't know what Mike McDaniel is going to do. You can have the plan to get Brian Daboll in there, but if Brian Daboll's offered a head coaching job with the Buffalo Bills, I mean, you'd be insane to think that he's not going to take that. So,
yep.
I mean, you never know for sure, but that's why it's good to have. I mean, one of the good things about Saleh is he knows a lot of these people, right? Like he's got direct contact with a lot of these offensive guys. So, got to hire the right one.
Speaking of OCs, Eric Bieniemy back with the Chiefs.
There you go.
As everybody awaits Matt Nagy doing something. Getting some job somewhere.
Could be.
Maybe he'll pull just get in there and bump Dayball out of the way. And
Maybe
take
so.
the job.
Maybe so.
Pretty sweet.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. The best and worst things in sports coming up next. We'll take your best things and your worst things on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game.
The best and worst of the sports week. Now on Robby and Rexrode.
On ESPN.
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
This is the worst.
You look like you're feeling sorry for yourself.
He's one of one. He is him.
This is a Coke bottle. It's not a crystal ball.
When I woke up this morning, I was feeling pretty dangerous.
Okay, let's go.
It is time for the best and worst things in sports. We'll take your best things, your worst things on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Joe Rexrode, kick us off with your best and worst things in the world of sports.
All right, I'm going to keep it college football. I'll let you guys do whatever you want to do with the Titans if you want to do that. But I'm going to go college football. My best is the Indiana Hoosiers, 16-0. The last major college football team to do that was Yale in 1894. That was major college football back then. That was
Good team.
That was the absolute dominant center of the college football universe, the Ivy League in 1894. But
Innovative
16-0
stuff in 1894.
Yeah. 16-0. There's not a story like the two stories that people most applying to this are the Miracle on Ice, which that's one of the greatest single day upsets of all time in sports. It's makes no sense if you look at those two teams. Everybody knows the story. Well, I hope so. It's a great story. And then the Milan Miracle, which became the movie Hoosiers, which is this tiny little. Indiana used to have a state tournament that was like it was no classifications. It was everybody was in the tournament, and then and them winning it in 1957 or whatever it was like completely shocking. But like again, those are David's slaying Goliath. Indiana became a Goliath in 2 years after being like the weakest David of all time. It's just there's really no exact parallel to this, but it's incredible. Kurt Signetti, we'll all soon hate him because like they're just going to keep winning, and he's destined to be like Saban light or Big Ten Saban, but incredible story. So congrats to all you Hoosiers fans. Your basketball team kind of stinks, so I'm glad you have this football team. My worst in sports, I'm going to stick with college football. Well, you know what? Let me give it a double. Alabama is bringing Bediako back. They have a temporary restraining order, so he's going to be able to play against Tennessee Saturday. And it's and on Tuesday they're going to rule, and I wouldn't be surprised if then he doesn't play after that. But regardless, I mean we're getting into people who have like signed NBA contracts and things coming back to college basketball. They're terrified of losing in court, but like at some point you need to kind of step up and be like, okay, here's the rules. Let's see what happens, because it's a joke. But I was also going to pair that with what happened. We changed the portal rules. I think it makes sense. You don't have a spring thing. You have one time. Okay, good. So now Duke, at the very last second, loses its quarterback because apparently they gave millions and they bringing in family members, and Miami just went complete desperation to get a quarterback away from Duke. And then the portal closes, and so Duke is left with like no quarterback because their backup transferred out. And so once again, just whatever anyone tries to do to change something, like there's going to be some consequence. You're like, oh God, that makes that happen now. That sucks. So again, college football on the field, fantastic. College football off the field continues to be a mess.
Ian Safar, your best and worst things in the world of sports.
I was talking to Robby a little bit before the show about this.
Pre-show meeting?
Lots of stuff this week on the docket. I kind of want to do a little college football recap as well, just in general. My best thing in college football, maybe this season, Mendoza, Pavia, and the Dr. Pepper commercials.
Yes.
Underrated, those Dr.
They're
Pepper
very
college
good.
football commercials.
Some great ones.
Those are pretty good. So that was good. NFL, Caleb Williams, touchdown. I don't know. I was listening to some XM radio, Sirius NFL radio. They're talking about how this is one of the best plays in NFL history.
It's a pretty good throw, man.
Like these are guys who are, old school, putting it up there with the Dwight Clark catch.
Yeah, I mean,
So
if they would have won, I think that there's a
so
case.
I mean,
Yeah.
that was
If
pretty.
he didn't
big.
throw a pick right after that, and it's like,
So-
it was a hell of a play.
There's a hockey one I think Robbie's going to bring up, so I'll leave that. The Boutte catch, how about that one? pretty good NFL stuff.
I'm going
there.
no hockey, so you do whatever you need to do.
Oh, Roman Yossi, 1000th game.
Yep.
Got a lot of best.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on this week.
Well, we got to get it all in before we're snowed in for the next 4
Yeah,
weeks.
so a couple of stuff I had written down. Worst college football in general, just the coaches and the overall trolling that went on this season. Not, let's grow up a little bit. That I did not enjoy that.
Talking to you, Lincoln Riley.
And Lane, a little bit too.
Yep.
Worst, we didn't really talk about this in the game. That the Brandon Cooks, Buffalo, Denver interception catch. Do not agree with that call. I think that was pretty bad.
We could never figure out anymore like when the catch starts and ends. That's the whole thing in the NFL.
Discourse around the catch, the whole situation.
I think it was the right call, but I agree.
I
definitely think I agree with McDermott. Like that's one of those where I think everybody should be okay with look at it a million times.
Yeah.
And it was so fast. But that's also a play where if you slow it down, you think one thing, but then when you watch it in regular time, it's like, yeah, like he didn't have it, I do think people confuse the ground. If you don't have the ball, then it's not about the ground. We're not talking about a fumble. We're talking about just, did you ever have the ball, right? Like I saw Stilly among other people, like not understanding basic stuff about that. But
to me, I thought he had the ball.
I thought he had the ball too.
Yeah.
Hit the ground.
Yeah.
Was touchdown. Plays over.
Yeah. Yeah. If he did have it, then that's what it is. But like the ground itself doesn't matter if you don't have it. That's what people, you know what I mean? That's what people got confused on. But yeah, it's a close one. That's for sure.
That's a close one. They'll be talking about that one in Buffalo for a long time. Maybe a future head coach, Brian Daboll, can overcome that.
Terry Pecula keeps talking about it.
He does. My best in sports, Vanderbilt women's basketball. They are number 5 in the nation. I mentioned it earlier. They're playing again tonight, but I watched the Michigan game the other day. Nice performance by Aubrey Galvin, 20 points. They win 72-69. I announced yesterday that they're going to have a future home with UConn. So Gino be coming to town here in a couple years. So
about time.
We'll see what happens on that front. But I mean, look, top 5 in the country. They're undefeated. It's the best start in program history. They're the best thing in sports. Sorry.
I like it.
They are.
I love it.
My worst thing.
I want some more of it.
Nice. Bo Nix. It sucks that Bo Nix is hurt for the AFC title game. Like, is it impossible for the Denver Broncos to go win the home game in the AFC title game with Jarrett Stidham as their quarterback? No, it is not. They have a great defense, and who knows? Maybe Drake May is going to throw 3-4 picks in this game, and Denver's defense will score a couple of touchdowns. We'll see. But like Bo Nix, I think is pretty good. I don't know if he's perfect, but he's pretty good. And I was really looking forward to seeing Broncos Patriots with Bo Nix at quarterback. And now that it's going to be Jarrett Stidham, it's like, so the Patriots are going to cakewalk to the Super Bowl here. I say this like it's some 15.5-point line. It is a 5.5-point line for the Patriots.
It's awful because I like Bo Nix doubted him over and over and over again. Watching that game, it's like, so which one of these quarterbacks is actually making more big time throws, and making less mistakes? It's him, and their offense still goes into it definitely hibernates, and there are times when it looks ineffective. But I mean, the guy's pretty freaking good, and that's a terrible thing for him to have that injury when he did, and for them. I can't say I feel like terrible sympathy for Sean Payton.
Yeah,
but,
I don't really like Sean Payton. That's what one thing I've noticed throughout the year. I'm like, he's just kind of a jerk.
Kind of rubs you the wrong way.
He kind of does.
But Bo Nix doesn't.
Like Vrabel he's like the lovable coach in this particular matchup. It's kind of amazing. It's like, wow, there's Sean Payton out there, and then there's the lovable Mike Vrabel.
Yeah. Huggy feely Mike Vrabel.
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. 615-737-1025. Somebody says the best is Yossi 1,000 games. The worst is the Preds riding the mediocre line. Gonna have to make a decision one way or the other coming up here in just a few weeks, I would assume. So we'll see what happens on that front. We will have Predators head coach Andrew Brunette with us later in the show coming up at 7:30. Charles Robinson will be with us at 8 o'clock. So all that is ahead here on Robby and Rexrode. We will get back into the Robert Saleh part of this coming up next, including an interesting piece at The Athletic highlighting Robert Saleh's tenure in New York, where things went wrong, and what has to change now in his second stop as head coach in the NFL. We will get into all that. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Thursday morning. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Predators head coach Andrew Brunette will be with us at 7:30. They are back in action tonight. It will be Roman Yossi's 1,000th NHL game tonight as the Predators take on the Ottawa Senators. Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports with us at 8 o'clock. We'll get all into the Robert Saleh hire with him and get his thoughts on that. So looking forward to that. Taking your thoughts in the meantime, 615-737-1025. Joe, your colleague at The Athletic, Zach Rosenblatt, came out with an interesting piece yesterday detailing Robert Saleh's tenure with the New York Jets and some lessons that will need to be learned along the way if his tenure with the Titans is going to be successful in his second stop as NFL head coach. And there's a lot in here that we've talked about throughout the week from the standpoint of, maybe letting the noise get to him, the outside noise in New York when it comes to just not only the media that's involved, but, as Rosenblatt mentions, there's radio's pretty loud in New York. There's a lot of things in New York that you have to deal with that you don't have to deal with. Maybe it's some other stops in the NFL. One of the interesting things, reading through this is how much of this can you just specifically blame on quarterback when it comes to his tenure with the Jets? Because as Rosenblatt points out, defensively, whether you go by like traditional stats or you look at under the hood and get into the analytics, Robert Saleh is pretty good defensively. Like the defensive EPA at different times with the Jets was the best in the league. And you had that coupled with an EPA on the offensive side of the ball that for the most part was the worst with the Jets. And it's easy to say, well, of course it was. You were playing quarterback largely with Zach Wilson. So that's probably not a very good scenario if you're Robert Saleh or any head coach, if Zach Wilson is your quarterback here. But does it go deeper than that, right? Like, are there things offensively, even beyond quarterback play, that you look back on with his tenure with the Jets that is going to require him to look in the mirror and say, you know what? I handled things a certain way. I did things a certain way. I believe things a certain way offensively that just didn't work in New York that we're going to have to change moving forward here. So those were a couple things that I was reading through on this thing that stuck out. There's a lot of different points that Rosenblatt brings up here. If we go through the slogans that Robert Saleh came up with, there's a lot there. But what stands out to you about this piece that Rosenblatt put out at The Athletic about Saleh's tenure in New York and what has to change moving ahead here to Nashville?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything earth-shaking in there that people didn't generally know. But, yeah, there's a lot of interesting detail in that. Like you said, the defense. EPA, for people who don't know, it stands for expected points added, but it's basically a catch-all success rate stat that is adjusted for opponent and things like that. It's really I'd say EPA is what people who really dig in on NFL stats really rely on, and it matches up pretty well with the eyeball test. I mean, in 2021, they were the worst defense in the NFL. In 22 and 23 under Saleh, and I think that was his first year. But in 22 and 23, combined, first in defensive EPA, first in success rate, first in pass D, second in yardage allowed, seventh in scoring, third in pressure rate, fifth in sack rate. He gave up 10 plus yards, 16.6% of the time. That's the lowest rate in the NFL. 2 years later, under Aaron Glenn, they're like basically at the bottom of the league and all that stuff. I mean,
they did not intercept the pass this past year, which is still amazing.
Truly, truly amazing. So again, that sort of goes in with what we've been talking about. Like he is going to, or you would think, you better freaking hope, he's going to figure out some ways to shore up that defense and get the most out of it. And obviously, they had some great players with the Jets. Let's remember that too. Like they had Quinnen Williams and they had Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed, Bryce. They had Quincy. They had a lot of good players. Titans need a lot more good players on defense, but yeah, you would expect that to get better. Yeah, the offensive stuff, not good. It was basically the opposite of that. They had the best EPA in 22 and 23 in D, and they had their worst in the same time period in offense. Yep. Yes, Zach Wilson, I mean, the quarterback stuff, Aaron Rodgers getting hurt, all that stuff goes into it. yes, then you have the slogans.
All gas, no brakes.
Yeah, which is fine. Yeah, these coaches love that stuff. Or now what, which is like, you do this, now what? So nobody cares. You know the next play. That's all fine. I need to know, and this is the one thing I wish Zach would have explained. In 2024, his slogan was "Love and Regard."
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
Love and regard. What? I don't. I need to know what that means.
It didn't really last long that year, so maybe it didn't. The slogan didn't
not
catch
much
on
love and not much regard for him from Woody Johnson. But
he came back from London, and Woody was like, "All right, get out of here. See ya."
Yeah, thanks. But then obviously as we've talked about the sort of trying to find out who's talking to media and the texting to the. He texts the radio host, basically ripping Zach Wilson, and then the host just says, "Hey, guess what? Let me read this text on the air."
Yeah, exactly.
As some obvious missteps with media and things like that. And again, a lot of these things you figure you can learn from and do better next time. But it's an interesting combination of good and bad there.
Here's what's going to be
overall a bad record
on the defensive side. This is going to be interesting, and it's impossible to know the answer to this right now because there's so much work to do with the roster. But this is what Rosenblatt says on Salah's defensive style. Says Salah's defenses rarely blitz and instead rely on a 4-man pass rush to create pressure, allowing more creativity in the middle of the field and on the back end. And then, he talks about now, obviously it's a good thing to be inheriting Jeffrey Simmons. Well, right now you do have Jeffrey Simmons. You look at the rest of your edge rushing group, and it's like, I don't know. Doesn't seem great there. And I don't know who the corners are going to be at this point. So we know that there's a lot of work to do on the back end in terms of filling out the roster. I mean, they need basically 3 starting level corners that they're going to have to add to this team. So I guess the question is, by the time training camp rolls around, is the Titans roster going to be in a place where they can operate how Salah likes to operate, which is rarely blitzing and relying on a 4-man pass rush? Is that going to be a viable formula for them?
Yeah. Yeah, and look, like it did. I think it started with that interior push they got from Quinn and Williams, but still, absolutely better players all over the place, including on the edge. So that's a good question. Yeah, and if you don't have that, whatever, they're not gonna be able to fix every spot on defense. So how good is he at adjusting to that? And you would think good. You would think that based on this, again, like someone texted, well, the Jets were loaded. Anybody could have done that. I'm like, well, I think anybody could have had a pretty good defense with that talent. But number one, I think that probably speaks to, it's not like it's the greatest collection of defensive talent ever assembled. I think that speaks to a combination of talent and coaching.
Let's head to our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Mark in Nashville to the program. Mark, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Yeah, how you doing, Robby? What's up?
Yeah, buddy.
Jeremiah, Oliver, Edward, Rexrode. How you doing, man?
What's up, Mark? I'm good, man.
Yeah. So I assume, Joe, Robby, y'all are pretty good with the hire they made with Robert Saleh. Can I say that? Can I say that y'all are good with that?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I'm open-minded to it.
Yeah, he was, before some of the bigger fish came available, he was my number one of the candidates before that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a good hire. I think he's got a lot of Vrabel in him. They do need structure and discipline, man. And they're going to have to, like you said, Joe. They're not going to be able to fix it all in 1 year. And he did have a great roster, I ain't going to say great, but a very good roster in New York. Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, the Williams brothers, Sauce Gardner. He had a good roster up there. And my thing is, Joe, I think Breece Hall's going to be available as a free agent. Will he be able to lure him down? That would be a great running back to bring in to go along with Cam Ward and stuff. They're going to have to dress, like Robby said, defensive back. They're going to get as many defensive backs they can come in here and bring in here, because that's not a good mixture back there in the secondary right now. And defensive end, I think a couple of the Jets players are defensive. Will he bring some of those guys down here and put them on that roster to improve this team with the with the Tennessee Titans? But hey, Joe, Robby, can y'all give me a little help this morning, man? Come get in your car and come get me off 24. I mean, this bad cup is ugly out here, man. Any of y'all come here and help me, Uber, whatever you do, Joe. I appreciate it, man.
I think people trying to leave town, get out while the snow is still away from us.
Oh yeah, I believe we're gonna have a bad snowstorm this weekend, Robbie. I think it's gonna be one of the biggest we've had in a while.
We'll
And
send
I hope it
Kaharski out
does.
for you. Look for Kaharski. He's gonna be out there with his little bike.
It'll be the angry man screaming.
A little
in the middle of
flag
the
on
road.
his bike. Yeah.
Hey, man, the way Kaharski talks, and I hear Joe imitating, I'm not getting in the car with Kaharski, man. He gonna keep on going. I'm not getting in the car with Paul Kaharski. But hey, man, y'all have a good day, man. We'll see y'all later, Joe.
All right,
have a
you
good
too,
one, Robbie.
Appreciate it.
Kaharski.
All right, see you, Ian. See you, Ian.
Last time I
All right,
heard
Mark,
that,
appreciate you, bro.
Vrabel called him Kaharski sometimes. I like that, Kaharski.
You know, that brings me so much joy because I can just see how mad that would make him, and it makes me laugh even more.
Yeah.
Get Kaharski out there.
Kaharski.
Your services are needed. We'll take more of your thoughts on Robert Saleh. Plus, game number 1,000 coming up for Roman Yossi tonight. We will put into scope that accomplishment and what he has done in his career to this point. Is he the greatest Nashville Predator of all time? We'll get into that. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Predators head coach Andrew Brunette will be with us here in about 12 minutes or so, coming up at 7:30. Joe, it is game number 1,000 for Roman Josi tonight. He will become the first Predator ever to play all 1,000 games with the franchise. So they've had, obviously, some players that have hit the 1,000 game mark before, like Ryan O'Reilly did it here. I've been on several guys who have hit the mark here. Luke Shen did it here. But obviously, Josi is the only one that's been homegrown to come all the way up and to hit that mark. So a cool night tonight coming up for Josi. Talked with him about it earlier this week, and, you know, in typical Josi fashion, he's about as humble with it as it gets. But you're talking 752 points in 999 games. He's closing in on 200 goals as a defenseman. Two-time Olympian coming up. I mean, he's probably going to be in the Hall of Fame, would be my guess, at the end of all this. And it's just a heck of an accomplishment. I mean, you think about this last offseason, he's diagnosed with POTS. The last couple of weeks, I mean, he looks like prime
vintage
Roman
Josi.
Josi. He looks really good out there. And frankly, like when I saw the diagnosis, and we talked about this, not only the diagnosis this offseason, but he's 35. Like, he's played a lot of hockey. He's 35 years old. I wondered how much we would see vintage Roman Josi again. It's been really cool to watch him play the way he's played over the last few weeks here. And if you look at the record of the Predators when he's in the lineup this year versus when he's not, pretty clear the impact that he's making on the team. So cool moment tonight coming up for Predators fans to see their captain hit the 1,000 game mark, all in a Nashville Predators uniform.
Yeah, it's amazing player, amazing career, and it's a really, you know, the statue of Pekka Rinne, and it's, you know, goaltender is a different deal too, I think, a little bit, but I'm with you. I mean, I think and we've talked about this too with Josi as you know, in terms of all-time Swiss players, that is something that you take into account too.
I think he's the best ever.
Yeah, so I think he's going to be in the Hall of Fame, and so, I mean, does that mean that just automatically he's the best Nashville Predator of all time?
Well, I mean, Shea's in the Hall of Fame. Yeah, Shea Weber's in the Hall of Fame.
And most of his stuff was done here.
Most of his stuff was done here. But, I mean, he would be – look, I have no idea how Yoshi's career is going to close out. I assume it's going to close out here, right? You know, that would be my guess. But, yeah, like I think he probably already is the greatest Predator of all time. I mean, I know you can put Pekka in that discussion for sure. Like, to me, it really comes down to three guys. It's Roman Josi, Pekka Rinne, Shea Weber. Like, those are probably the three guys that you have to sort between. You know, Philip Forsberg, maybe by the end of it, maybe he's right there and on that list. But I think it's three guys. Like, I think it's Josi, Rinne, and Weber.
And it's just hard. You know, it's not Shea's fault that he got traded away before their best season they've ever had, but he was. I mean, he wasn't a part of that, and Josi was central in that.
Yeah. And
so, I mean, that's something that you have to. So, I mean, I'm putting him, and obviously different players, but Josi as a producer, as an offensive defenseman, I'm putting him ahead of Shea Weber, and yeah, I think I'd put him ahead of Pekka Rinne at this point. Very close. Or maybe I'm projecting a little bit because maybe you need to see the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting.
Induction.
Like, I would probably still argue that at their top level, the greatest player they've ever had is Shea. Like, I think at his top level, he is the best player they've ever had. They're just different. Like, they don't play the same way. Like, Josi is more flashy's not the right word. But Yosi's got more skill to him, right? Like, he's just got a lot of speed. He's got, you know, what he can do with the puck is pretty dynamic. Weber was kind of like your all-around just mauler.
Physical presence with a killer slap shot.
With a killer slap shot, could make some plays offensively, but, you know, he didn't skate like Josi skated. Or,
right.
You know, so they're really different in the way that they play the game. But I think it's close. Like, you know, Josi, I mean, Yosi's Norris year, and for a couple years after that, like, that's pretty high level defenseman.
Yeah.
I mean, he was on the short list of best defensemen in the league.
But Shea was on the short list
he was.
For what, 5-6 years, maybe, probably, right?
I mean, it's a really interesting debate, I think, like, of at their peak, who was better, Josi or Weber? It's pretty close.
And Pecorine won a Vezina.
Yep.
Was obviously in some years was right in there among the top guys, but there were probably some years where maybe he's outside the top 10 too, right in there. I mean, it was a little bit more up and down, I guess. He also had the injury, the surgery, and all these things. I mean, the run, I guess if you look at, again, the greatest season of all time, obviously you're starting with him.
Sure.
On that whole thing. And so if you look at it from that perspective, yeah, he's still got a strong case.
Yeah, it's a really interesting debate. Look, Yossi, undoubtedly. I mean, when we were talking about numbers that get retired and stuff like that, like 59 is going to get retired at some point. I think 6 is too. Like, I think eventually they'll probably retire Shea Weber's number and put it up there. But like Yossi for sure is going to get retired. And I do think he's going to get in the Hall of Fame. It's interesting when you look at his career. He's got one Norris, which Shea never got, by the way. Shea never got a Norris trophy. Probably should have had 2 of them.
Sorry.
At least.
That damn Nick Lidstrom.
Yeah, Lidstrom was one of them, and then Carlson was another. Yossi got one. There was another one that he should have at least been in serious contention for, and we remember our friend from Chicago that didn't even have him on the ballot. And it was like, oh, really? He's not in the top 5, huh? How about that?
Oh, that was that Scott?
Yeah, Scott.
Scott. Come on, Scott.
Not good on that front. But, I mean, Yossi early in his career had some concussion problems, had some injury concerns, and it was like, I remember when they gave him I think it was a 7-year deal at $4 million a season. I was like, man, 7-year deal, huh? A lot of concussions he's had early, and that ended up being maybe the greatest contract they've ever signed. Like, it was a great contract for a long time. And then,
high value
on that contract, high value on that number. And then he worked his way into his new deal. And again, from, I don't know, you tell me, 2018 to 2023, 2024, like it was.
Yeah, he's right there.
He's right there as with anybody in the league, as in terms of the best defenseman in the NHL.
And so it's cool that while this milestone comes, he does look like Yossi lately. I mean, because there's no guarantee. No, with all the stuff that has gone on, he's gone through some stuff physically, as you're gonna do. You play this long in this league, it takes a toll. So it's pretty cool that he's playing like that now.
And off the ice, I mean, you think Yossi, Rene, Weber. It's hard to find 3 better guys than that.
Yeah, that's pretty.
I mean, just the community, the fan outreach, dealing with everything.
Yeah.
I mean, just top-notch people. And it's hard to find better than that.
For sure.
Yeah, there's all 3 of them.
No doubt about it.
Yep. We'll have Predators head coach Andrew Brunette with us coming up next. We'll get his thoughts on Yossi in game number 1,000 tonight. And by the way, big game for the Predators tonight as they take on the Ottawa Senators. We'll get into that. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you. Big one for the Nashville Predators tonight as the Ottawa Senators come to town. It is game number 1,000 coming up from Preds captain Roman Josi. And to help us talk about all that, we head to our phone line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com and welcome in Predators head coach Andrew Brunette to the program. Andrew, good morning. How are you?
Morning, fellas. Doing good.
Awesome, man. Appreciate you taking time to be with us. So, Andrew, let's just start there with your captain. Game number 1,000 coming up tonight for him. We talked last week about this a little bit, and just in terms of, you've had players hit this mark before, but Josi, the first guy to do it, game number 1 all the way through game number 1,000 in the Nashville Predators uniform. So, what do you make of, I guess, just this accomplishment for him and the significance of this for both Josi and the franchise tonight with him hitting this number?
Yeah, I guess first of all, to hit 1,000 games in the NHL is about as special as a achievement you can get, especially in today's game. With a lot of a little bit different than going way back, where it's harder to play as many games, the injuries, the teams that, and I'll touch on that in a second. But even the new CBA, the contracts, it's harder and harder for guys to get to this number. And to do it with one team is pretty close to unheard of, with, again, back to the salary cap and the contracts and free agencies earlier and all the different things that make it so hard to play for one team for 1,000 games. Just 1,000 individually, but for one team is really a remarkable accomplishment. And the way he's done it, how he's done it, the person he has and the face of the franchise for that stretch, I think for the organization is pretty special. I think he is big part of our culture, the Predator culture, the Predator kind of way. And to see him get 1,000 is a special night and special time, not just for our organization, but just for the city, hockey in Nashville. I think it's just a great night for everybody.
And Andrew, look, obviously over the course of that time, there's been wear and tear, like as you would expect in this league. You watch him right now, he looks great out there. What does he battled through? And I guess how impressed are you by how he has come out the other side and playing the way he is at this point?
Well, he's a competitor, and I think he competes in his own way. And I think it's highly competitive of kid or player or man now, where, he's not maybe the competitor you see, getting in fights and all that stuff. He's a guy that just wants to play. He wants to play hockey. He's a hockey player. He shows up. He fights through so many different injuries. Even I think, he broke his hand early in the year and he finished the game, which is, just speaks of his competitive fire and desire to play and desire to be there for his team. I think, he's done it, in a lot of different ways. And how he's come back from last year, we were all worried. I think once he got clarity what it was, I think he felt way, much more comfortable. And, I think his game's just kind of risen all year. It's at a really high level. I thought he was really good the other night. He seems to get better. And being around Roman, I think I said this a little bit last week, he understands and he gets, the times in the game when we need him to turn it up. And he has that innate ability to turn it up in big moments, a little bit of, Derek Jeter kind of like, where he senses the game needs to be turned here. And he's one of the ones that turns it.
Andrew, on the team front, obviously not happy with the way the first period went down the other night, and we talked with that. And talked with you about that after the game. The rest of the game, you looked like the team that I think that you can be. So as you've kind of stewed on that the last couple of days, as you've watched the film, as you watched the video, what's the message to your group tonight in a big game with Ottawa coming to town?
Yeah, I think we just got to, obviously the last two periods were us, I guess you could say. The first period was a little bit sloppy the way it was in the end of Vegas. And I think when you take a breath and you recharge and you kind of go through the tape, and probably wasn't as bad as it felt. There was just some glaring mistakes by, some of our guys. And, I thought our back end struggled a little bit that game. And there's some things that happened that we'd love to clear up and need to be cleared up going forward, because that's two periods of giving up way too many goals for our liking. But in saying all that, there was a lot of good in that second half of the game. And we just have to, from the puck drop tonight, again, it's going to be another desperate team. We're in that stretch of games that everybody we play is just as desperate as us. So we have to find a way to turn our desperation up another notch, and they have it. And that's going to be the important part just coming into tonight, because these games are really important. The stretch of home games are really important here if we want to get to the place where we want to be.
After that game, Philip Forsberg had some comments that, not typical for him, but obviously he was ticked off. Do you like that when someone like Phil sort of speaks up like that in that moment, a guy who maybe doesn't normally do that?
Yeah, for sure. And I think what a lot of people don't see, he is pretty vocal on the bench, and he does. You can hear him in the locker room, and you hear him different times when things are going like that, and he's pretty adamant about it. He just kind of probably keeps it away from the media, the press. But it is good to get out, because I think he was one of the guys that the first shift of the second period. I mean, he just drove the game. He took over the game. I thought the rest of the way. That line was exceptional, and that was from his desire and his will to drive it. And when Phil drives it, we're a really good team. And fortunately, we only have one Phil, but he has the ability to take over games and put us in a position. And obviously, we missed out last game, but when he's gone, and we've seen it over the course of, he's kind of another one of those guys that have been here the whole time, pretty much. And he'll hit his number here pretty soon. We're talking about Roman, but he's a guy that when he grabs it, it's fun to watch, and it makes us a way better hockey team.
Andrew, Ryan O'Reilly, he's on the doorstep of being 35 years old. He's having a great year. I mean, he's got 47 points, 49 games. I know his game even goes beyond the point total for you guys. But as you've watched him, as you've worked with him over the past few years, what is it about O'Reilly, do you think, that's allowed him over such a long period of time at this point to adapt, to stay at the top of his game, and to be able to be as productive as he is this year with all the responsibility that he has with you guys?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty remarkable. I remember when, I got here 3 years ago or whatever it was, it kind of ended his time in St. Louis, and, you heard the scatterbug that, he's on the downswing, and, he's, because he had so many miles, and the way he plays and the way he competes, and his playoff runs, his Stanley Cup runs, there's not much left there. And to see him come in and to be around him, there's tons left in there, and there will be for a long time, because he is, one, the way he prepares himself, the way he takes care of himself, the way he constantly works on his game. He's an older player that finds a way to adapt, and that's a love of the game. And that's a will and drive to be the best you can be. And he works at it all the time. I mean, I think for our young kids that come in a development camp, he's the poster boy of how do you be a pro? How do you develop your skills? And you'd see, so there have first eye, front row seats to see him when he comes in and how he prepares, and then he goes on the ice and what he works on and how hard he works and how late he stays after. And you're very fortunate as an organization or as a coach that your young guys get to witness that and to see what it takes to be to be as accomplished as he has, and how he brings it every day. So he's been exceptional. And to me, it all just comes down to, and I've been very fortunate in my time in this game. I've been around some great players, and I've seen kind of a lot of different things. And the constant for the great players and the really good players is their drive and their desire and their love of the game, that they're constantly working on things, or constantly evolving. And I play with guys right into late 30s, early 40s. I was around Joe Thornton a few years ago, how they do those things. And that's the reason why they are the players they are. And Ryan's no different from all those guys.
Have you ever pulled Ryan aside and said, "Hey man, you have had more than one good year in your career"? Just to let you know, Ryan.
No, he's extremely hard on himself. Yeah, that too. I think that's part of his personality. I usually kind of, when I hear him say that, I let him breathe for a while, and usually he's fine. He gets it. He's fine. He just needs. He's competitively charged, to say the least.
I will say sometimes it's very difficult in the post-game media sessions to not just start laughing when he starts doing that, because it's like, oh my gosh, here he goes again. But to your point, I guess that's how you remain as committed and as dedicated and as great as he is, because he's always his own biggest
self-critical.
critic.
That's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And the little things he does, again, for all the young kids and all the, in Nashville, if you just watch, if you spotlight him and watch all the little things he does in a hockey game, from the face-offs to every little detail of his stick and his positioning and how he thinks his way around the ice. He's not the fleetest of foot, but, we played him against McDavid, McKinnon the other night in Colorado, and just the way he thinks and how he positions himself throughout the whole game is just something for any young player. And, I say that to all our young kids here to watch and to see and to learn because there's not a lot like him, especially, he's not our game gets faster and faster and he just gets smarter and smarter. And it always goes to show, that intelligence, that hockey IQ always gives yourself a chance.
All right, Andrew, last thing for you. I mean, we don't deal with snow and ice around here all that often. Somebody who is, I'm sure, dealt with that more than we have. You got any advice for us Southerners down here this week with this winter storm coming in?
Get your skates out. Yeah, no, it was kind of funny. I was at the grocery store yesterday, and it was bare. I'm like,
where's all the food?
There's a storm coming. Where is it going exactly?
It is amazing.
People have got a lot of eating to do this weekend, man.
It's just nothing.
Yeah, I guess that's what's going to happen. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Oh, Andrew, it's going to be a fun night tonight. Obviously, a big game and a big night for Roman, and we just appreciate so much you taking time to be with us this morning, and we will talk to you soon.
All right, guys, take care. Great talking to you.
Yeah, Predators head coach Andrew Brunette, our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. Brought to you by Aero Exterminators, going beyond the call. Aero Exterminators, a proud partner with the Nashville Predators. We will have the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode coming up next. Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports at 8 o'clock. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game.
Sometimes he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. And sometimes he's just, well, Joe.
Awkward moment. Let's do it.
This is the Rex Rant. Now on Robby and Rexrode.
I've got a kid right there. You can ask him. I mean, have I given him any good life advice? Probably not.
Your generosity is greatly appreciated, especially during this health inspection season.
Robert, I have a coach for you.
Now you listen to me here. This quarterback's going to be developed by our friend Brian.
You're upset. Tell me about it.
Very upset.
Goddamn, coach, a mistake.
The coach had sent him in. We shouldn't have sent him in. That's a dang coaching mistake. The kids are playing their tail off, and the coaches are screwing it up.
You know, I married another cousin last year. I'm going to be in a bad mood today.
It is time for the Rex Rant, brought to you by Functional Medicine of Tennessee. Heal from the inside out. Check them out at functionalmedicineoftennessee.net. Joe, the floor is yours.
Woo! Thank you. I just never know on a given day. You're coming through all the fog and the patchy fog, and you're thinking about Death Storm 26. You just never know what day you might enjoy some reminiscing about good old John L., who, as I've said many times on this show, in his last season at Michigan State in 2006, would not answer any of my questions. Just would not answer them. I'd ask a question. He'd say, yeah, next. Just all year.
What did you do to him?
Oh, I wrote a couple things that pissed him off. I mean, that's basically, yeah. I mean, that's basically what it comes down to. So, yeah, just
Rexrode's been an instigator for a long time. That's what we've learned.
Yeah, I can piss off coaches way better than Kaharski. He's soft. Let's monitor my tone.
Brian, why did you call that play?
Can't wait for that. Coming up soon. I'm going to talk about basketball. I know you're excited about that, but this is a pretty big deal. And I really am concerned about where things are going here with Charles Bediako. I think I said his name right. I don't know. Earlier I said that it was Milan, Indiana. It was Milan. So thank you, Texter,
the
for
miracle in Milan.
Buongiorno.
Well, I was thinking, I was like, man, the Olympics are coming up. It's cool.
Yeah.
Not in Milan either, but
Paris. We got a Paris here.
We do. I don't know if Milan could beat the great Tennessee, Lebanon. Yes, I know it's Lebanon, but that's basically the same thing that I just did. So yeah, Charles Bediako, he's going to play Saturday for Alabama against Tennessee. And then there's going to be, he has a temporary restraining order, which is, a Tuscaloosa court. So I love that. It's like, you start there and you got like the court in the town with the college, like, sure, I'll give him a TRO. And then there's going to be another ruling next week. It may end up being a one-day thing. But, the thing about this, of course, is that Charles played for Alabama in 21-22 and 22-23 seasons. He's a 7-foot center. He declared for the NBA draft 3 years ago. He has played 3 seasons in the G League. And by the way, he has signed NBA contracts. This is something that NCAA President Charles Baker has said that's where the line is drawn. He has signed 3 NBA deals, 2 exhibit, 10-day contracts, and then a 2-way contract. That's, again, this is on December 30th. Charlie Baker said, quote, the NCAA will not grant eligibility to any prospective or returning student athlete who have signed an NBA contract, including a 2-way contract, end quote. Well, here we are. This guy is playing against Tennessee. So, first of all, this is not okay. And the thing is, if this ends up going through, and I'm reading a piece from Sam Vecini, who is our hoops absolute expert at The Athletic, what you can have, well, first of all, you can now have this whole thing where you declare, go to the draft, do all that stuff, and you can come back. But also, as he points out, this would basically open the door for even in season. He brought the really interesting example of Brandon Podziemski, who, of course, is a very good player for the Golden State Warriors, who was starting at Santa Clara, where, that team, the way he was playing, everybody's like, oh, he's going to be a first rounder. You could just leave in the middle of the season, go to the NBA team, sign with them. It's basically just a completely, just an open, like we talk about man door around here. Like, this is just, yeah, it's the open man door both ways, NBA college basketball. Whenever you want to sign, just go. I mean, it's not good. It's not okay. It's not good. It has to stop. But I thought a really good point was brought up by Kentucky coach Mark Pope, who, by the way, everybody wanted him fired. BBN, you guys all right? Because they're kind of on a heater, and they just won at LSU and at Tennessee. But this is what Mark Pope said about this situation.
The one stopgap that is kind of spreading right now that maybe has some legs, it's kind of a last stand, is the NCAA does get to decide who gets to go to the NCAA tournament. Like, they get to decide that. They have that power. And so at some point when they've been very, very clear about what the rules that they're going to try and enforce, they might lose in court, but they still get to decide what games count towards the NCAA tournament. And I'm not saying that to penalize any team. I'm just saying that because at some point it is important that we take a stand and regain some tiny ounce of sanity. And until someone tells me different, I still believe the NCAA has full power over who gets in the NCAA tournament and what games they count towards your NCAA tournament bid. And at the end of the day, that is what drives all of us. So I hopefully we'll take a stand there and clean this up for everybody, because right now everybody is chasing their tails, and I think it's a place we can take a stand. I hope we will. This game matters too much. The NCAA tournament is too extraordinary a deal. These high school players and these young players and all these players matter too much. College basketball matters too much. It's just time to take a stand, bring a little bit of sanity to this deal, say it publicly, and let's move forward.
I love it. To me, he's right. Like, sure, you may lose these cases about an individual and the ability to get, but if I'm Charlie Baker, it's like, well, if he's ruled ineligible next week, are you sure you're playing him Saturday against Tennessee? Because guess what? Now you just played an ineligible player. Am I wrong?
Yeah.
I mean, Nate Oates, and you know what? I'd love to hear from Alabama fans. I know we have Alabama fans who listen. You know, Nate Oates, when this thing happened with the Baylor guy, which is not the same as this, the Baylor center, who's not very good, by the way, barely plays for them. He had not signed an NBA contract. Well, Nate Oates had this big thing, this interview where it's like, hey, we're taking opportunities away from high school players, blah, blah, blah. Okay, thanks, Nate. Yeah, I know. You were a former high school coach. We all know. You are now this change. Look, we've seen Alabama. They need help inside. He would absolutely make a difference. This is not going to be like the Baylor guy. This would be a key guy for them on the interior. Could change the math and make them a contender. I really hope that Nate Oates thinks about this. They've already confirmed, Bill, they're playing him. Why can't they be ruled ineligible from this? It's not an individual. That's not, they can sue, but that is not the same thing as what we're talking about in terms of preventing people from earning money in this country, which is, I mean, to me, I think as a baseline, I get why all these cases are being lost. They should be lost. But this is ridiculous. And I agree with Mark Pope. If you were going to state that as your rule, as the line that you're not letting them cross, how could you just let them trample you right now?
Yeah.
You can't do it. And so this is a really, really important time the next few days for college basketball. And I mean, Bama said that they're playing them. I don't know, man. I think you might want to think about that, Nate Oates. I think you might want to think real hard about that. He has a temporary restraining order. I think I might wait till I get a final ruling on this before I mess around with that. But, hey, do what you ever want to do.
Anybody ask Rick Barnes about this yet? I'd love to hear what Rick Barnes has to say on this.
I don't know. I'm trying to think.
If they want to just bring LeBron James back, let him play, sure. Yeah, get LeBron out there. Get whoever. Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
Bring him out.
Oh, every, major college program is anybody with eligibility. Because what he has 1 semester of eligibility left. The eligibility rules still matter. Like, the eligibility rules are still, those have not
LeBron got all kind of eligibility.
Yeah, absolutely. The LeBron and, a bunch of Dane O'Neal's these Villanova guys who won a title, they all have a year left. Let's get the band back together it's absurd. And so at some point, I get it. The NCAA, you've been smoked in court and all these lawyer fees. At some point, you need to have some kind of a spine. And again, remember, the NCAA is the schools. So what we do have here is the schools bitching about this, and then certain schools saying, oh, we can get that guy. Well, let's break the rules that we complain about people breaking because it could help us, and that's where we are. College sports.
Charles Robinson will be with us coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Final hour, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robbie Stanley alongside Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Thursday morning. And as we do every Thursday morning at 8 o'clock, we head to our phone line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in our friend Charles Robinson to the program from Yahoo Sports. Charles, good morning. How are you?
Well, gents, just getting ready for Stormageddon.
It's going to be rough. Apparently, it's stretching
even your
from,
way,
from your neck of the woods all the way to, middle of the Atlantic Ocean, I guess.
Yeah. We're maybe snow, maybe freezing rain. If that happens here, we shut down for a week. So I literally had to move up my my flight to Seattle by a day because, if it happens on Saturday, you're not going to be able to get out of Houston, and it's completely ridiculous. So we're everybody's running around trying to get water and food and whatever else.
Weapons.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think we have any shortage of that.
In case there's like a zombie attack with the snow.
Yeah. Well, you got to be prepared. You got to be prepared. Our grocery stores are out of food, so that's fun.
Yeah.
Everybody's concealed and carry just in case Frosty the Snowman shows up. So.
Well, the Titans had a new head coach show up. Robert Saleh is the next head coach of the Tennessee Titans. We've talked with you about him in the past, but now that hire has been made, Charles, what do you make of the fit between Saleh and the Titans?
Bald Vrabel.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, very similar to Mike in some ways. So, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting hire. It's a culture hire for sure. I mean, he's, he acquitted himself very well in San Francisco this year with very limited options. I think, again, I was told people the Jets experience coming out of that, this was going to be a guy who ultimately was going to have another shot at a head coaching job. And, I think we all saw what he did with San Francisco's defense this year, and with all those injuries. And, I think it was very positive experience for him, and, but I make the joke about Vrabel, but it's very similar. He's a very similar individual. I mean, they're not, it's not apples to apples, but he's the guy who's going to come in. He's going to motivate a lot of guys. And I thought to myself, I advocated this idea of like, well, why do you keep Jeffrey Simmons? Well, now I know. Okay. All right. Well, this makes sense then. If this is the type of hire you were open to, defensively, I think he's going to be able to get things together pretty quickly. I would guess in my mind that maybe the draft capital is, it's another defensive player. I don't know if it's a guy like Bain out of Miami or whoever else, but, I think there's no doubt in my mind that, the Titans could turn things around very, very quickly from a defensive standpoint. Offensively, obviously, if Brian Daboll ultimately ends up being the offensive coordinator, which it's an interesting conversation right now. I think that's a very intriguing pairing, between the two. I think Brian Daboll he's gotten a lot of mileage out of, 4 years with Josh Allen, and, being a Bills head coaching candidate right now it's sure interesting, that's potentially where that organization is leaning. But I thought beyond Josh, he did some good things in New York offensively, particularly in the last season between, Jackson Dart and, how he utilized the running game. And when Malik Neighbors stays healthy, maybe we're talking about a different, situation in terms of him being available or not. But I like the hire, in terms of Saleh. I always liked Saleh. I thought he was a very, very good coach. He's a good dude. Players lined up behind him when things were really going bad with the New York Jets. Although the owner had a different opinion, you never felt like the roster was abandoning him. And I always thought that said something about him as a head coach.
Yeah, well, that's encouraging, I think, for Titans fans to hear, because obviously we know the offense was terrible. There were reasons for that. I think you can certainly give him the exemption on just the Jets in general, on Zach Wilson, Aaron Rodgers tearing his Achilles, all these things. But there was some of the stuff with the media, the trying to find out who the mole is and things I guess stuff like that. I guess. First of all, I know there's nothing quite like probably coaching in New York and that particular press corps, but is that a concern? Is that something where you learn from it and you get better for it?
Yeah, and I do. I think you get better for it, and I think a lot of that is Woody Johnson inspired. I think it was you've seen post Saleh, post the regime there. You've kind of seen that. I don't want to call it. I guess I could say paranoia, but there's an element of paranoia that's existed, beyond Robert Saleh. It's not like I didn't feel like it was emanating from him. And so, I discount that a little bit. And again, the complaints that I heard about Robert Saleh from ownership there were, it just didn't make a lot of sense, right? When I remember when he got fired, I called someone in the organization. I said, explain this to me. Like, what exactly is the problem here? And I remember them saying, Woody thinks that he's just good at lifting weights and playing golf. I'm like, okay, that's just ridiculous. That's like a completely ridiculous description of what he doesn't. Woody always had a problem with. He didn't get into it with officials during games.
I remember that one. Oh yeah, I remember that one.
yeah, wasn't arguing with officials enough, and he wasn't. He's supposed to be this big master motivator, and he's not out there, going at it motivating. I just don't see this guy who's out there motivating the team, and I'm like, this just seems ridiculous. And to me, I thought, okay, if this is true, we're going to see some kind of big resounding response post Saleh, and it didn't happen. It didn't happen. Nothing changed. And the supposed issues that he had with Aaron, or it just felt like a bad situation there for everybody, right? And including Aaron Rodgers, including players on the roster, including Joe Douglas in the front office. And I think that bore out. I really do. I think it was. You saw the changeover this year, right? What really changed? Did players seem that much more motivated? Rodgers,
they were awful.
Obviously. Yeah. I mean, it was just a terrible situation organizationally. And it was clear how much of that I think was really coming from above. And again, I don't think Saleh was ever Woody Johnson's guy. And I think that was part of the problem. And it was, he was always waiting, to kind of pounce and go after him and blame a number of different things on him. And then Joe, you mentioned it. From a quarterbacking standpoint, it was rough. There was no way for him. Think about this. Like, Zach Wilson goes to the Miami Dolphins and they trust him so little in Miami that they skip over him to start Quinn Ewers.
Yeah.
When they start, that says something to you about and this was your primary guy, your first year there, right? And you'd go into the organization, you hear, well, he's completely lost confidence, and it's just, I feel like it was just such a bad hand that he got dealt, in that situation. And it's good to see him, get the next opportunity. I will be interested in seeing though how the OC, really turns out with the Titans, and if he's paired with Dayball, it's an intriguing pairing to me if that is ultimately what happens. But I do get, look, when he took the job, I was like, yeah, I get it. If you like Cam Ward and you like some of the defensive pieces that you see, I know a lot of people were like, well, I don't understand why you didn't take a better job, why you didn't take the Ravens job, and I don't think the Titans was like a terrible job. Like, Miami's a bad job, right? Like, you're walking to Miami, you're walking into massive, cap problems, a quarterback problem where you're going to have to probably work yourself out of it over the next couple of seasons. That's not what the Tennessee Titans are. You have cap room. You have some talent on the roster. You have a quarterback who, showed progress over the 2025 season. Depending how you feel about ownership and being able to name your own staff, I think it's, that probably is what slides it up or down the ladder in terms of the job opportunity.
So how real do you think Daboll is in terms of being the head coach of the Buffalo Bills in the aftermath of all this?
Yeah, here's the thing about the Bills. So I spoke to somebody about this yesterday post the Terry Pegula the press conference.
Boy, that was something.
Which was just, that was a wild press conference. There's no doubt. And what I got told was, in a week we'll have a better idea of really what it's just getting started for the Buffalo Bills. Like, they have some ideas. They have, obviously they have some early candidates, but really in terms of them feeling like where they're going, the firing of Sean McDermott, the timing of it, it's kind of put them in this weird sort of spot. And, although they have some early candidates right now, it doesn't feel like there's traction inside the organization in terms of a short list. Like, we're a little bit away from that. Now, if that changes quickly, that will tell you something. I think about what Josh Allen, what are you leaning into as an organization? What are you leaning into if you're Terry Pegula? Because, look, if Brian Daboll lands the job there, it's a Josh Allen hire. I don't know how else to look at it. I'll be completely clear about that because, again, Daboll did some good things when he left. It wasn't like a totally empty experience in New York. But again, I think his candidacy with the Bills is very much built on the relationship with Allen, the few years they were together. And the problem I guess I have with that is, did Josh Allen really wilt without Brian Daboll? I don't think he did. I think he was fine. I think he's a great quarterback. He won an MVP without Brian Daboll. And the one thing that made me nervous about Daboll is, and maybe people forget this, when he was a Bills OC, he was very much into, hey, let's lean into what Josh's tendencies are in terms of shouldering everything, going out and playing hero ball and taking the risks that he takes and trying to carry the offense himself. And I feel like historically over the last couple of years, that's what the Bills have tried to even out, right? Let's give him a running game. Granted, they failed in terms of the surrounding receivers, but let's try to build skill position players around him so he doesn't have to do this himself. And, so it's interesting when you're going back potentially to a Brian Daboll who was like totally about, hey, if Josh wants to carry the team offensively and he wants to play hero ball, like, I'm not going to shy away from that. I think he was, now maybe, that changes now and he doesn't feel that same way, but it's just interesting to kind of see them revert back to that. But then when you watch that press conference and you hear what Terry Pegula says, throwing Keon Coleman under the bus, which was completely unnecessary in that moment, especially when Brandon Beane then later was like, yeah, I'm still taking my, credit for what that pick was. It feels disjointed, organizationally, and it would just be odd for Brian to end up being the head coach there. And there's no other way for me to explain it other than just be like, okay, Terry Pegula, he's leaning into the relationship that this quarterback had once upon a time with his offensive coordinator. But the quarterbacks, I know the turnovers. I get it. I know people are like, oh, he didn't have a great playoff year. I don't think Josh is the problem there. I really don't. I think overall, from a talent standpoint, there are other issues there that are kind of creating a wall for the Buffalo Bills. And I would be more if I'll say this about Daboll. If he's an OC, I feel better about that right now than him being a head coach. I think he's acquitted himself to the point where I'd be more than happy that, for him to be an OC somewhere in in the NFL than to suddenly be the head coach of the Bills because of the relationship he has.
Okay, so from the Titans' perspective on that, first of all, you're talking, okay, I get it. The Bills are early in the process after their goofball presser yesterday. But from the Titans' perspective, like if they're not going to get Dayball, obviously there's there is an urgency here.
Sure.
So, but I'm wondering, I guess you said earlier, and maybe you didn't mean it this way, but you said paired with. You said Saleh paired with Dayball, which to me would be like the GM saying, hey, how about this guy? I guess I would hope that Robert Saleh would be picking his staff and that they talked about all this stuff and that he laid out. And I would assume, Mike McDaniel was the obvious name. He goes with Harbaugh. You've got all these guys from the offense that he has had his success in this league with, that he's familiar with. It just surprises me that he would go with or would be out there choosing Dayball, who runs a different offense. So help me understand that.
No, I mean, you and I are in the same boat, right? We're rolling in the same direction. Like it feels like a pairing, right? You're not at any point when you watch these head coaching searches and you see staffs built out, you always ask yourself, what's the connection? Like it was the same deal with Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly. When that happened, I was like, I don't know the attachment there. Like, I don't know. And, so naturally I have to ask. Be like,
it worked out well too.
Yeah, right. You ask, you're like, well, these two guys don't seem to have experience together. Like, do they know each other? Is there some connection that I don't know about, in the background at some point during the path of their careers where, it made them natural bed partners and that's why they end up on the staff together. And the answer I got in the Raiders situation was like, no, like obviously Chip is, there are other individuals in the franchise who really were interested in Chip and brought him aboard. And it very quickly went sideways between Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly. And that's what happens sometimes when you try to attach a very influential coordinator to a head coach and you don't have instantaneous success. If there's success, they figure out a way to build a language between each other and it, it can work. That has happened in the past. I look at, Saleh and Dayball and it's a similar situation where I'm like, okay, well, explain this to me. How exactly do these two make a lot of sense from an experience standpoint? And so it does feel to me more like a pairing than Saleh going, hey, I've known this guy. We spent time in the off season. Maybe we compare, what he does offensively versus what I like defensively. It's not some, I've never heard of the sort of Bill Belichick, Bill Walsh getting together in the off season, comparing notes and talking to each other about, how each views their side of the ball and how they can make each other better. I haven't heard that about a Robert Saleh and a Brian Dayball. And I could be completely wrong there. I mean, he could get hired and Saleh could come out and say, hey, here's the revelation. I've in off season spent a lot of time talking to this guy and, we both were, we had our own different sort of New York-esque experiences and that's where we connected. I don't know that that's a reality. So when I say paired, it feels, to me a little bit more like a pairing. Now that said, I do believe Saleh's going to name, his staff is in his hands, but I do think there's a unique situation when you're a team and you have a Cam Ward, it would be foolish to believe that the front office is not very, very much involved and on top of who we putting, the number one draft pick, our quarterback, this guy that we're extremely, on top of developing. It would be foolish to believe, hey, we hired a defensive minded head coach and let's just go ahead and not worry about who he's gonna pick, to now oversee the quarterback that we know is going to be the centerpiece of our franchise. Like No, of course, front offices, when you're in that situation, you choose a defensive head coach, you choose a culture builder, you choose a motivator, which is really the box that Saleh comes in. Then you sit there and go, okay, well, if we're going to do this, in terms of the head coach, in terms of if we're all about the culture from the head coaching perspective, but it is a defensive mind and he's not someone who's going to grow Cam, significantly as an offensive mind, we also need to think long and hard about who's going to end up being the OC and who's going to be at the controls with Cam and, how that's ultimately going to go. I tend to believe front offices who choose defensive head coaches, either ownership or the GM ends up being very, very cognizant of who we bringing in now to oversee the quarterback, potentially knowing, by the way, that you might lose that OC at some point. So it's a very fluid, you're always on top of it continually because you have to make sure you're getting the best person possible for the quarterback because of the fact that you chose a defensive-minded head coach.
So, Charles, we're now at the Final Four in the NFL. All that stands between Vrabel and a Super Bowl appearance in his first year as Patriots head coach is Jarrett Stidham on the other side. And then you've got what I'm really fascinated by in the NFC with the Rams and the Seahawks Part 3 going up. So your thoughts on the matchups of Conference Championship weekend?
The Stidham developments, it's unfortunate for the Broncos. Weird. I say it's unfortunate, but I will say this, Peyton really does believe in Jarrett Stidham. You can judge it however you want to. He's, anytime I've been through there the last, 2 years, he's talked a lot about Stidham and having this confidence in him being, this underrated player or whatever, great in the room, obviously with Bo Nix. But it'll be interesting to see how ultimately it plays out because you have a New England defense that certainly is playing much better the last couple of weeks. So, they're getting healthier. You've seen just from the standpoint of aggression, how much more aggressive they've been able to be, particularly with the pass rush. So, I'm sitting there, I'm staring at Vrabel and I'm like, okay, it's a good situation for you. You're running into, a guy who has not played a regular season game. Now he's stepping in there and there's an immense amount of pressure. And Sean Payton has a ton of faith in him, but there's no doubt now that, Payton's sitting there going, we got to be able to run the football effectively. And then obviously from a defensive standpoint and being at home, we have to have, our A game when we come out and be able to force Drake May, who's shown in this playoff, cycle that he's willing to give up the football. We got to turn them over and that's ultimately how we win the game. I think personally, at least from my experience, I think when solid offensive teams run into great defensive teams, especially in the playoffs, great defensive teams usually end up being, the one that comes out on top, particularly if they have a home field advantage, which the Broncos do. I think the Broncos this is tailor-made for the Broncos to win this game and fly in the face of everyone going, well, they lost Bo Nix. So the offense, by the way, wasn't great under Bo Nix. Over the expanse of the season, they had issues offensively. You were always waiting for the big breakout, 3 or 4 week breakout for the Broncos where you said, okay, they've turned a corner. It never really came with Bo Nix. It's been good. He's very effective this year. He was a good quarterback, but I would say that there's no doubt that the defense carried them. So it's going to be a very interesting game, I think, for the Patriots. But I don't think it's now all of a sudden. I've heard people say, well, they played the worst schedule. That's how they got to the seed that they ultimately got in the playoffs. And now, oh, geez, you're playing Jarrett Stidham to get in the playoffs. Nah, it's a little rougher than that. I lean Broncos. People are like, oh, who do you think wins this game? I think it's the Broncos. I still think defensively they're going to be able to put a lot of pressure on Drake May. And I do think they're going to be able to run the football effectively. And I do think the home field advantage matters. And, so I still think that the Broncos kind of have a little bit of an edge in this game. And
What a Vrabel hater you are, huh? You called Saleh the bald Vrabel, and now you're picking against him. You think Jarrett Stidham's going to beat him?
I'll tell you, like, even though they played the schedule they did, Vrabel, I think, did a masterful job with that with that team. I mean, I think for what it was considered, the roster coming into the season, even with what the schedule was, I think he did a really great job with the Patriots. I think he did a great job, by the way, with Drake May, and dealing with Josh McDaniels, who's not, when you've got Josh McDaniels on your staff, you have to be a certain type of head coach to be able to, have that relationship where you can turn over the offense to him and not, Josh grinds on guys. He really does. Like he's not the easiest, offensive coordinator to have. And I think Mike did a really, really good job. By the way, they also blew out a lot of the schedule. I mean, they killed a lot of bad teams, which is what you're supposed to do if you're a good team. So it's not like I think like, the Patriots are this empty suit all of a sudden in the AFC title game. But let's be honest, guys. I mean, there's a lot of work still to do on that roster. There's a lot of improvement that can be had. I think the ceiling has not been reached for the Patriots. They've caught some green lights. They had the schedule that they did. Beat a good Chargers team, no doubt, and they got a lot of pressure in that game. And to me, I think when they won that game, I'm like, all right, we can stop talking about the schedule now. Like this is pretty real, and Mike's had the impact that he has, and I don't think once you win in the playoffs and you advance, particularly in the way that they did, we can stop worrying about whether or not the regular season record was just, you're playing a bunch of crap teams and that's how you rack it up. So
but he'll lose to Stidham. Okay, cool. So damage control, but he'll lose to Stidham. All right, we got you.
I just think you guys disrespect. I just if people disrespect. They look at Denver and they're like people don't understand.
No, they're good, but God.
Stidham, top 2 defense in the
Jared
NFL.
Freaking Stidham. I mean, I think we should almost have a bet on this. Bet you.
Sure, but I mean, what do you?
Some whole milk at the local Walmart if you can find any. Yeah.
Do you really think? Yeah, we'll bet some toilet paper on this. Yeah. Do you really think that they're going to put okay, I'll ask you. Do you think Stidham's going to throw the ball more than 25 times in this game? Seriously.
No, I expect Denver's defense to be able to keep it close and that. But yeah, like I think the Patriots defense is actually pretty legit.
Yeah, they're legit. They are.
And I mean, Boutte and Diggs. I mean, it wouldn't be a vintage Super Bowl team, but of the two, I'll take that team over freaking Jarrett Stidham quarterbacking a Super Bowl team. So I guess maybe it's just my wanting a good Super Bowl.
Yeah, I just think we've turned it all into Stidham, and I'm like, that's not fair. I mean, Denver's a much better team overall than what people are giving the credit for. So you lose Bo Nix, and again, Bo Nix has been like he was good this season, right? But let's be real. I mean, Bo Nix wasn't over the course of the season. He wasn't blowing the doors off of.
No, but he also outplayed Josh Allen last week. I mean, I agree with you, but also last week I'm like, crap. That's why they won, right? Yeah. But Josh Allen 4 turnovers and Bo Nix played better than him.
Yeah, he did. No, you're right. I mean, he did, but it's a 1-game scenario, and again, he's susceptible to pressure like anyone else. And again, when I look at Drake May, and look, I was there. I wasn't there for this last weekend. I was there the weekend before, and he will turn the Chargers. He was not perfect in that. Like the game, you look at the score and you're like, well, but he had his problems in that game. He did give the ball away. He has had some turnover issues, and Mike Vrabel has been very blunt about it. Like, we can't keep giving the ball away the way we are. So, I think that creates a little bit of an opportunity, I think. Mm-hmm. And then look, real quick, just on the NFC. I mean, the one thing I look about with the NFC is I think it's going to be cold. Again, I think it's going to be a game that's going to be played probably somewhere in the mid-30s. I do think the cold affected Matt Stafford in Chicago. There's a reason why he had a sub 50% completion percentage, and the Seahawks defense is insane. It's insane to me. Like that defense scares me. it's different than how Houston did it, because Houston is like very similar to like the old Buccaneers teams, where it's like the talent was so good they didn't have to do anything exotic. They just roll out and their guys were going to beat you consistently. I think Mike McDonald's it's a little bit different. You know, he doesn't play with three linebackers ever. You know, he plays like the personnel that he has is always they're always a nickel, and Nick Eamon plays this really special role for them. But I just think Seattle's like they're fast, they're crazy aggressive. Being in that stadium, as much as I think the Rams are, you know, a good veteran team, it feels so primed right now. And the only thing I think it changes is like losing Charbonnet. Let's see if Kenneth Walker, you know, he's going to have to hold up the whole game and he's going to have to carry the load. There's no question. I don't think they want to put a lot on Sam Darnold. I think as many games as they can get through without putting, you know, 40 passes on Sam, I think are a positive, but I just think defensively they're at a completely other level right now. And I that worries me about the Rams.
It's going to be fun to watch, Charles. Thank you as always for taking time to be with us. Have fun this weekend, and we will talk to you next week.
Yeah. Apologize about the Matt LaFleur contract extension too. I was looking forward to talking about that.
I was really avoiding the reality that happened.
We'll explore that.
Really avoiding the
season
reality
to
that
enjoy
happened.
that.
Listen, just survive the storm. All
That's the only thing I'm
you
worried
think
about right now. Yep. We'll deal with the floor later.
All right, guys.
Thank you, Charles. We'll react to what Charles Robinson had to say. Take your thoughts at 615-737-1025. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game, taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Appreciate Charles Robinson for being with us in the last segment. Ed says he wants to play poker with me, and my facial expressions sometimes are a tell on the text line.
Charles, stop! Stop, Charles, stop!
Say, wow, Charles has been talking for 11 minutes straight. It's unbelievable.
He can go, man. He can go.
That's why we love him. Good stuff.
Really interesting stuff on Dayball. And so in the midst of that, however, because again, it's just like it feels like a pairing, which I don't like. I don't like that idea. I don't, because again, let's go back to like the Breer thing, right? It wasn't just like, yeah, really impressed as a culture setter and all that stuff. And then they're like, okay, great. And we'll help you with your offense. It was, he gave them a plan. They asked about Cam Ward, hours spent talking about what are we doing without Cam Ward. He talked about it, then gave him a plan B, right? All that stuff.
Yep.
Now, someone did, and Chad said this on the text line, so this is interesting. And I don't know, did you guys see who had DVD had on yesterday? Vingen, if you're listening, text me right now, please. They had apparently a New York reporter.
It was, I believe it was Zach Rosenblatt.
It was Zach.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, if I was worth a damn, I would have gotten Zach on our show since I work with him. But hey, good job by me.
Opportunity missed.
Sorry, I went to Walmart. I had to buy 19 loaves of bread so I could cover my body in bread this weekend. Chad says
it's a great image.
And then just pour syrup all over it. Yes. Katie, I'm waiting. I don't know why I just took the show to a terrible place. I'm sorry. I apologize to all of Greater Nashville, especially Katie. Happy birthday yesterday, by the way. I love you.
God, I hope she's listening.
Oh, God, please don't be listening. Sala and Dable lived in the same neighborhood in New York, according to, I guess, Zach.
That's good.
They each had each other's families over for swimming.
That's good to know.
And
eating bread
and French toast, I hope. And French toast, yeah.
Hey, at least
lots of bread.
At least it wasn't the Jacksonville pool. As long as we're staying away from.
That's right.
Yeah. Liam Cohen and him can fight over who gets dibs in the Milky Pool party.
Covered in bread in the Milky Pool.
Wow, Brian, there's a lot of syrup and honey and all sorts of jams over here. What's going on?
But apart from that silliness on my part, sorry. Yeah, that is interesting, right? Like if they lived in the same neighborhood, I guess that could be a totally separate from any sort of, they never cross paths from the football perspective. Is that enough to, they talking ball and they're, hey, you know what? Someday maybe we'll work together. That at least it would explain it to some extent, other than just the Titans saying, "Here's your OC."
Yeah, I mean,
right?
I said earlier in the show, I've got a hard time believing that the Titans are just going to be like, "All right, we love you. Appreciate everything you just said in this interview." By the way, your offensive coordinator is going to be Brian Daboll. This is what we're doing. Like this quickly into the process,
right? Exactly.
I'd be surprised by that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's like it could be like, well, McDaniel's my choice. Oh crap, you went to okay. Well, we got you. But that's fast to me. That's too fast. So, yeah, like very interested. First of all, we have to wait and see if it happens. And that timeline is not like the timeline Charles just laid out there. To me, it's not great because you need the OC to then that's when you start building out the offensive staff.
Yeah.
So if it's like, well, Dayball is really hoping for that job and they're going to take their time and they're going to go through 6 other candidates and whatever, then it's not great from the Titans perspective. Is Dayball that good? Is it that important to wait for that? I don't know, man.
You have a tough time convincing me of that. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. More reaction to our interview with Charles Robinson coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Final segment of the day, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. More reaction to our interview with Charles Robinson. Got into a lot of different things with him. Going to be interesting to see who lands this Buffalo job. I mean, I did see his tweet yesterday. He's like, yeah, if you're Keon Coleman, just go see if you got more eligibility at Florida State. Go back and play some college football next year.
There you go. Yeah.
Seems to be the way things are going right now in college sports.
Well, it kind of is going that way.
I mean, the real question here is whether it's because they have to pivot because Daboll gets hired by the Bills, or I guess if this process is just going to take long and you're not comfortable waiting on Brian Daboll and you're the Titans, where do you pivot to? Like, what are the next options that are available that you want to meaningfully explore if you're the Titans here? Because we've talked about a lot of the names, and Saleh knows a lot of these guys, is either worked directly with a lot of these guys or is in that tree where they all are kind of in that same system together. So you would think there's access there to a plethora of candidates from the offensive coordinator front. But it is interesting, like if Daboll is going to go through this whole process with the Bills, and they may take some time here before they make a decision, how long are you willing to wait on that if you're the Titans?
Yeah, that's a great question. And again, just system-wise, look, I look at the NFL, and you got your whatever you want to call it, the West Coast, wide zone, the descendant of the West Coast offense, which is what all these guys run, which is what Brian Callahan ran with Zach. So this is what Cam Ward was in last year. If you go with a Daboll, you are technically going to the Earhart-Perkins offense. How different are offense in the NFL these days? How much interplay is there? I think there's just a lot of copycatting, and I don't think it. But terminology is different for sure. It's definitely a different terminology, language to learn, and things like that. That's not a deal breaker for me. But again, it just would be surprising to me that Robert Saleh, with all of his connections on the West Coast side of things, would go there. That would be. So I've been trying to Google like stories about the Salehs and Dabolls and their swimming parties, and I'm not seeing it. I can't believe that no one in New York during that time would have written some fun story about this, but I can't find it. But that whole thing, if it comes to pass that it's Daboll, it's going to be really interesting. And then, like you said, if it's not him, if he gets the job or they don't want to wait, I would feel better if Saleh is dipping into that tree, because to me that tells me that he has autonomy, and I think he should have autonomy to build his staff and try to execute the plan that he apparently over many hours told the Titans he was going to execute.
Big game coming up tonight for the Predators, taking on the Ottawa Senators. Game number 1,000 for Roman Josi in his career. We had Predators head coach Andrew Brunette on with us earlier. Joe, going to be cool tonight. See Josi becoming the first Predator ever to play games number 1 through 1,000 as a member of the Nashville Predators. Great career from him to this point. He's playing really well right now, and cool moment for Predators fans tonight to be able to celebrate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Celebrate Roman Josi. Appreciate Roman Josi. It's been an incredible run, and it's really cool after all this stuff, the Potts thing, or all the concussions, the ups and downs overall, to see him playing like this while he hits this milestone.
Yep, 35 years old, still playing really well. And by the way, it's a pretty large game for the Predators tonight, too. They've let 2 in a row slip. They really need to win this one tonight. So we'll see if they can do that at home. And then we'll see, by the time Saturday rolls around, are we all underneath 25 inches of snow out there?
It may not be game 1001 for Roman Josi, I'm thinking.
May not be. We'll see what happens. Hope everybody has a wonderful rest of their day. Get outside and enjoy it, because good grief, who knows when the next time we'll be able to is.
Hands off my bread.
We'll be back tomorrow. Next Man Up with Jake Lyman coming up next. You're listening to 102.5 The Game.